This is topic 4, data manipulation language, part 1. In the previous topic, we learned the data definition language. Particularly, we learned how to convert the conceptual model or ER diagram into actual SQL creatable statements. So by running those creatable statements, we could store several tables in the database. Given those tables, now we are ready to manipulate data. Manipulation means we can insert data, update data, delete data, and also we can retrieve or select the data from the table. So in your class notes, in the first page and the second page, I added a SQL script that can be used to drop any existing tables and recreating the 5 tables that we studied previously. A short note about this script, if you look at the first few lines here, we are dropping tables first if they exist. When you drop the table, just note that if two tables are related, for example, by one-to-many relationship, one side is called the parent, the other side is child. For example, here, vendor and the product. Vendor is providing many products, and the one product is provided by one vendor. If you recall what we have done in create table statements, we have vendor table. Then in the product table, you can create a foreign key that can reference primary key of vendor code. When you drop those tables, therefore, if child table exists, in this case, product is child table, vendor table cannot be dropped because child table is referencing this parent. Only when you drop all children's, you can now drop this parent table. So that's why we start to drop line first, then invoice, customer, product, vendor, like this sequence. After you drop all those tables, when you create tables, again, you may need to consider the sequence. In this case, it's reversed. So therefore, you cannot create a child table before the parent table. That makes sense because if you create product table, you can see here foreign key, and the foreign key constraint vendor code references vendor table. If you do not have a vendor table here, how can you create product tables? Therefore, in this case, you need to create a vendor table, and then you can create product tables. So I just follow the sequence, who is parent and who is child, and I add everything here. So let's create 5 tables using this script. So I will copy from the beginning to the end of this script. So let me just carefully copy it. And then I'm going to run this in the database. So let me open the database here. And currently there is no table in my case. Even when you have some tables, you can run this SQL script. And again, when you drop the table, if you get any error message, double check whether there is any associated children table. So if there is a child table, you may need to drop that first. Anyway, I assume everything is okay, and I can just run all the SQL statements that I copy here. So let's click go. On the left side, still I cannot see the update. If that happens, you can always go back here on top right side. There is a small green icon, reload navigation panel. So if you click this, you can see this new 5 tables, customer, invoice, line, product, and vendor tables. Okay, so now we are ready to use some data manipulation language. And the first one is insertion. So we want to create new data in the table. As an example, here I give you 3 insert into statements. To add a data, the SQL syntax is insert into and the table name follow. So insert into product table, and to add values, keyword values is following, and inside the parentheses, we list up all the values. So if we go back to the database, and let's just briefly review product tables, and then you may see there are columns, P code, P descript, P in date, quantity on hand, minimum amount, price, discount, V code. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns in the product table. So in this example, you can see inside the parentheses, there are exactly 8 values. Those 8 values are separated by comma, and some values you can easily figure out there is a single quote, and for some values there is no quotation mark. So in this case, any text value that include character data type or varchar data type in SQL, you must enclose them with a single quotation mark. If it's a numerical value, you don't need to add this single quote, but just directly add number values that include integer or decimal or floating values. Any number values, you don't need to add a single quotation mark. Also note that when you directly add those values, you have to provide all 8 values, and the ordering of those 8 values must be same as the column listed here. And then in this case, also sometimes if you have missing value, even in that case, you have to provide this keyword null. So still you have to keep the total number of values inside the parentheses that should be matched with 8 columns. In the third example, same insert into table, but instead of listing values directly, after product table name, we have another parenthesis. And inside this first parenthesis, we list up some columns, not all the columns, but some columns that include P code, in date, quantity on hand, mean, value, price, discount. So total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of 8, only 6 columns are included here. 6 values will be matched with just 6 columns in front. So you don't need to provide null keyword for missing value. And also, it may be much clearer to match each column with each value in this format. So if there is a kind of a lot of data you want to insert, many people may use just the first format. But I recommend, if possible, you may want to use the last format here, the third one, because it is much easier to track the column and the values. And many times you can prevent some errors, potential errors, by mismatching column and the values. As a practice, in your note, I want to run the first insert into statements that will insert the first product. Code is 11QR31 and the description is Power Painter. So let me just copy it. And in the previous lecture, instead of directly typing or copying SQL statements, I recommended you to use a coder editing tool that's called Visual Studio Code. So in this topic, I'm going to use the same editor as a kind of scratch pad. So I already create a new file and use this file extension SQL. So by doing this, you can see color-coded SQL statements, and you can easily figure out if there is any syntax error. So anyway, let's say I want to type this insert into statements. To save some time, I will just copy and paste it here. So let me change the line for better reading. So in this insert into statements, we are inserting this full values into product. So now let me just copy this insert into statements. And by default, if there is selected statements, you may just want to delete it. and I will paste here exactly the same insert into statements. Again, additional spaces or line spaces will be ignored, so it doesn't matter whether you have one space or whether you change the line, it will work. So let's try to click go. What happens? It did not work well, but we have some error message. Actually, I intentionally try to run these statements to show you this error message. When you have any error message, don't be overwhelmed or don't be scared. Many times students just send me an email, but you have to learn by reading this error message. In this error message, what does it say? Cannot add or update a child row, a foreign key constraint fails. What this means? There should be some problems with the foreign key. Then let's go back in this insert into statement, and what is the foreign key? Actually, the foreign key is, if we look at the structure of a table, product table has here the last column V code. Why we have this V code? V code is a foreign key, and this foreign key is referencing vendor. So if you look at these statements one more time, which one is vendor code? This is vendor code 25595. And indeed, do we have this vendor 25595? No, we never entered any vendor information. So here, actually, we are trying to add non-existing vendor, a kind of a ghost vendor. Does it make sense? No. So from this example, what we can figure out, not only for creating tables, even when you insert new data, if tables are related, we cannot insert child data if there is no parent data matched. So what is the parent table for this product? Vendor table. So to run this insert into statements, we need to create 25595 vendor first. Then we can run this product, insert into product statement. Does it make sense? So in your note, let's scroll down a little bit, and then you may find this vendor statements, insert into vendor statements. And the first column is a vendor code, therefore you may find the last one is the vendor that we are looking for, Rubicon Systems. So let me copy this last statement to insert into vendors. So let me copy this into Visual Studio Code first. So let's just look at the statements. So we are inserting Rubicon Systems and the phone numbers and some other information as well. So let's try to run these statements in your database. So let's look at your database, SQL, delete select statements, retype insert into vendor statements, and let's click go. So it was successfully executed. And if you check vendors here, can you find one vendor 25595? And the vendor name is Rubicon System. It was successfully inserted. Now go back to the statements for the product table. Theoretically, since we have this matching vendor, now you should be able to insert this new product information. So let's try it. SQL, and let's add this insert into product table, and then click go. So previously we had error, but now you can see there is no error. And if you click product, it was successfully added because we have 25595 vendors. One more thing I would like to address regarding to insert statement is, if I copy this insert statements, same insert statements again, and if I rerun it, you may have some error message, but now this error message is a new error message. What does it say? Duplicate entry 11QR31. So it's not about other column values. It's only about this primary key values. So what is the primary key? A unique identifier. So after you inserted this 11QR31 product, if you are trying to insert another product with the same primary key, the database will restrict it because it's not unique value. So we have this duplicate entry error message. Therefore, for other products, you can still insert, but the same product you cannot. Propounding rule is called the entity integrity rule. So we can guarantee entity integrity by looking at unique value for each primary key. Compared to this, in the previous error, what was the problem? The foreign key did not match with the existing parent's primary key. That is called the referential integrity rule. Based on the referential integrity rule, database will check whether there exists that foreign key. If it does not exist, database does not allow to add that information because it's a ghost parent. Okay, so now let's add some more vendors and then let's add products. So we already inserted the last vendor. Again, because of entity integrity rule, you cannot reinsert the same vendor. So exclude the last one and let's copy all other vendors here. So copy and then go to, in this case, I will just run the database directly. So let's move on to your database. And then here, let's paste this insert into vendor statements. And I will run, so click go. And several vendors are inserted. If you click vendor table, now we have total 11 vendors. Note that index number starts from 0. So 0 to 10 means 11 vendors. So we have 11 vendors now in the vendor table. So given those vendors, now feel free to add all the products here. So inserted into statements will be executed. Again, the first product 11QR31 here, we already added. So except the first one, we can add all those products. So now we have all vendors. We do not have any problems with referential integrity rule. Referential integrity rule means if there is a missing foreign key, there we have some problems, inconsistency problems. So let's copy all other products, insert into statements here. And let's run it. So go. And then if we click product, currently we have a total 16 products. So we have 11 vendors and 16 products now. And that's about insertion.